Hello and welcome to Timeless Tech. I'm Connor Gilchrist here with today's episode of Newspapers. With me today is Stephen and Stone. Stephen, what do you have for us today?
The two objects I am presenting here today are one of the oldest newspapers you can get your hands on from the year 1799 and a panel, a printing plate called a printing plate that was used that you would put multiple of them together on a sheet of paper and then press them onto the paper. It was a much more effective way of producing newspapers compared to the original way in the American newspaper system, which was writing them out by hand. So it made it much more efficient being able to put them together and print mass numbers of newspapers.
And can you explain for us why newspapers were formatted in this way?
Newspapers were formatted in this way because this was all pretty much the entertainment and news they had at this time. There was no radio, there was no TV. So as you can see, there's a lot more words and lettering and columns compared to the newer newspapers because that's all they had to read. If you look at a newer newspaper from 1900 and on, there's less words and more pictures because the format just changed over the years.
Interesting. All right, and Stone, can you explain what you have for us?
Yeah, so right here is the newspaper of the moon landing right here, and you can see the headline is kind of like bolded and it's in blue. So the headlines and the front covers are an important aspect when it comes to the newspaper. The headline and the picture that appears on the front is what grabs the reader's attention. The men when the men landed on the moon, it was one of the greatest achievements that America has accomplished. So it's important to make it the face of the newspaper. And as you can see, the title, it's in bright blue letters, and it's the only picture um, with the mission. It's simple, but it gets the job done, informing people on what happened. And the headlines are most important because it determines whether the entire story is worth it. And there's a saying, it bleeds, it leads, and it's a traditional saying, but it's very true in the newspaper. If people are not captivated by the first few words, then people won't be interested.
Interesting. All right. The last item that we have here today is this blue book. It's a collection of articles from the New York Times. It spans 1851 to 2012. So it has a lot of stories, obviously, from America. And it kind of highlights how much of a staple newspapers were in American culture. They were mostly a way of keeping track of current events. Um, and this happened for hundreds of years up until the development of radio and TV. So it was crucial to staying informed and staying on top of current events. Some of the most popular, or not most popular, but most well-known articles in here span the Civil War, World War II, World War One are in here. The sinking of the Titanic is one of the headlines. And then there's some more current events. There were a couple of assassinations around the time of the Civil Rights Movement in American history. And then there's, the last two well-known current events would be 9/11 and then the election of Barack Obama to president. So those are just some of the most important stories in American history that are covered by this newspaper. And for a lot of people, this was how they got their news. So it's important to remember that. All right, that's all we have today for today's episode of Timeless Tech. This has been the episode of Newspapers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
bensound.com